Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mystic Transit. Today's video will be an unusual one, as I'll be making a tier list on all of the New York City subway lines. Before we get into the video, I would like to remind you that all of this is my opinions, and you are entitled to your own. My favorite line might be different than yours, and that's okay. I encourage friendly debates about it down there in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into things. So we're going to be starting off with the IRT, the one line of course. Now this is technically the first line in the subway system. Note, I said the subway system, the elevateds do not count. But I grew up on this line at the 125th Street station, It's not that bad of a line, to be honest. It's my favorite, along with the 7, but we'll get to that later on. But the one it's a relatively straight line, doesn't really have any curves, and that makes it one of the fastest in the IRT, It doesn't really have to slow down to a 25 limit for a curve coming around 14th Street or anything like that. It doesn't have gap fillers anymore with the old South Ferry station. Gets you down to South Ferry quickly, gets you down to the west side, It's a pretty good line. I've never really experienced any issues on it. Never really experienced any delays on the one line, surprisingly. It's just fast, so I'm going to throw it up in the S tier, All of this is subject to change, We could get to the F line or whatever, and all of a sudden my views change on the 4 or whatever. But we're going to be moving on to the 2 line now. Now, the 2 I've had some interesting experiences with, I know someone who got robbed on the 2 line in the 90s, going up to Allerton Avenue. But in my experiences with the 2, I haven't really experienced any issues, for me. Overcrowding is a big thing on the 2, and there is some homelessness issues, and once you get onto the Lennox Avenue line, it gets kind of iffy. But I haven't really experienced too many issues with the 2. I wouldn't say a fast line, but I wouldn't say it's a very slow line. It moves relatively fast throughout the Bronx. You have a couple curves at East 180th, West Farms, Simpson, Jackson Avenue. It moves kind of slow through those sections, but once you hit Manhattan, it's fast on the 7th Avenue Express track. So for now, I'm going to throw it up in the B tier. I haven't really experienced too many issues with it. I've caught a 2 via Lexington before on the 5 line. That was a pretty cool catch. It's not like foam or anything like that because it runs so often via Lexington, but it's a pretty cool one. Now moving on to the 3. Fun fact, next video will be on the 3 line. The Red Rocket. What's there bad to say about it? It runs R62s, it runs OD fast down 7th Avenue, I don't really see many issues with 3, when does it really get rerouted? Only time I've seen it reroute is 2 times before. I thought it was a rush hour change, to be honest, up to 137th Street on the 1 line. But other than that, you don't really see the 3 getting rerouted. It's a pretty fast line through Manhattan. I was on the 3 line a couple days ago going to 148th Street to get some footage for the next video, and it was moving quickly. Got on at Fulton, got off at 148th. It was like maybe a 20-minute ride at most. It was mad fast. So we're going to throw that up into the A tier. Might even go up into the S tier, to be honest. Matter of fact, we're going to throw that up to S tier right now. So, 4 line now. It's one of my favorite IRT lines, to be honest, only because it runs the R142As right now. Rolling stock is a big thing when it comes to, liking lines and stuff like that. But the 4, I don't really see many issues with, It runs on Jerome. One issue with it right now, I think it runs 13 trains per hour, and that just isn't enough for Jerome Avenue service, and Lexington Avenue service, but that's kind of an issue with the interlining with the 5 train, on Lexington Avenue. But the 4 it's not that bad of a line, It runs fast through Manhattan. It runs the R142As, which has that beautiful sounding propulsion. It's a great line, I've taken it up to Woodlawn before. I've taken it down to Crown Heights. I've been to both of the terminals. It's a pretty good line. No, not the S tier. We're gonna throw that up into A tier. 5 line. Now, this is one of the most maybe controversial IRT lines. A lot of people call it redundant because it only really has one part of its line to itself, and that is the Dyer Avenue line. But I think redundancy is good when it comes down to the New York City subway. You gotta have different lines and services that run via different trunks to give you 1-seat rides. 1-seat rides is a big thing in the subway system, and yes, we are taking away some of the 1-seat rides in the Interlining Chronicles series, but I still think they are a valuable thing to have in certain instances, especially with the IRT, which is why I don't support de-interlining the 2 and the 5 in the Bronx. Now, the 5 line, I don't really experience many issues with it. Now, my issue with it is that it only runs R142s, but you can't really do nothing about that. It's not like I'm going to take the 142As off of the 4 and put them on the 5. No, I'm not one of those people that's like, take it off of the 4 and put it back on the... I'm not one of those people. I don't care about that. I like the rolling stock, but I understand why it was changed. We're going to throw the 5 in the B tier right next to the 2. It's not that bad of a line. I've experienced the 5 train on the 6 line, actually. I hope I could get that to play in the background here, but I've experienced it on the 6 line in Manhattan at 103rd Street. I was coming down from the mezzanine, and boom, R142 right in front of me. I thought NTTs was back on the 6. I started to get excited, and then train leaves the station. It said 5 on it. I was so disappointed. Moving on to the 6, this is the line that I have so many issues with the 6, but I also love the 6 at the same time. It's a love-hate relationship. You know, I've lived on the 6 for about 13, 14 years now, and I've gone through it all with the 6. Let's just say that I've gone through it shutting down because of the snow on the elevated portion. I've gone through a whole bunch with the 6, but it gets me where I need to go. I can't fault it for that. Yeah, it has some issues on the express tracks. Yeah, it has some issues in Manhattan. Somebody always pulling the brakes. It runs R62As, which, let's be honest, Westchester doesn't take good care of them. Westchester doesn't care about the R62As, you know. They want their 142As back, and it's completely understandable. That was the best version of the 6 line besides the Redbird era. We're going to throw that right in the B tier, you know. I'm not completely biased, you know. I might live on the 6, but I ain't going to put it in the S tier. Now, the 6 Express, I ain't even gonna lie, it smashes through the Bronx going uptown. Past Morrison and Soundview, I've seen it hit 46 miles per hour. I will throw that screenshot up on screen right now. Hit 46 miles per hour, but in the underground portion, it runs slow as a snail. I mentioned this in my New York City rush hour service changes video. Coming into 3rd Avenue in the morning peak, oh my god, it gets stuck behind terminating 6 trains at 3rd Avenue. It just moves so slow through the underground section. We're going to throw that right in the B tier as well. It runs fast on the elevator, slow through the underground. Now the 7. This is my favorite line in the system right next to the 1. I have some great experiences on the 7. I don't care what nobody says about the CBTC, about the ATO, about whatever crime you may have experienced on the 7. This is my favorite line in the system. There ain't nothing wrong with the 7. So what if it runs ATO? You could take that off running restricted manual. You know, the 7 is fire. There ain't no issues with the 21, 22 stations. I'll take that straight from Main Street to what's it called? Hudson Yards. No express trip. I'm gonna throw that in the A tier right there. I don't got no issues with the 7. Now the 7 Express, I don't even think I need to explain it. It's going right up to the S tier, especially Super Express on Mets game days. Stop playing. I have some great experiences taking the 7. I once went with my father to go to a Mets game. Took the 1 train to Times Square, the 7 train all the way to Mets Willets Point. Super Express, fire. And it was the R62As, man, best version of the 7, right? Matter of fact, Redbird era is arguably the best version of the 7. You can't beat the R33, R36s, but stop it. Them 62As on the 7 used to smash. And now we move down to the IND, the BMT, whatever you want to call it, the B division. It's all the same thing. The A line. Now, it's the longest line in the system. It has a whole bunch of stations, runs slow through Brooklyn, slow through Manhattan sometimes. Might as well say it's slow through Queens unless you on that little strip between Broad Channel and JFK, or Broad Channel and JFK. That's about it. That's the only time I really experienced the A-Run Express. It runs 20-minute headways in the Rockaways. You cannot say that is good. It runs commuter rail frequencies. That's not good, bro. The A, I'm throwing in the C tier. Why? Why does it have to be so infrequent? Well, I know exactly why it's so infrequent. It's because of interlining with the D and C, pause. But still, the A is and it runs the R46s. I ain't got much against the R46s. I grew up taking the R46s. Again, I lived at 125th Street on the 1. That doesn't mean I ain't go down to St. Nicholas and take the ABCD, pause. I was riding the R40s, R32s, all that. But the A's R46s right now are in horrible condition. You know, Pitkin, I understand that they old cars, but come on, you gotta take more care of them. It was what, like 2 weeks ago, that one of the traction motors on the A's R46s was all messed up. Nah, the R179s are the only good fleet that's on the A right now, you know. And yeah, everybody want to hate on the R179s, oh, they're lemons and stuff. They get the job done. I don't care about their propulsion sounds. I don't care about none of that. They get the job done. Yeah, I used to hate the R179s myself, but they started to grow on me, to be honest, especially on the J line, which we'll be getting to in a minute. Now, the B. As a child, you know, living at 125th Street, you would expect that I would have seen the B train a whole bunch, but it has gone missing. It is MIA. I don't know where the B train went, but I've only seen like 6 in my entire life. And that's with me filming at 47 50th Street. I've only seen like 6 B trains. Of course, that's an understatement, but Jesus, where are you? Like, the B train is so infrequent in my opinion, and that's just from me not seeing. At 103rd Street, it's all C, 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 C. No B's, what's up? And then it runs rush hour only rush hour service to Bedford Park Boulevard. And then we got to talk about how it doesn't run on weekends, it doesn't run on late nights. What's good, bro? We gonna throw that right in the C tier, right next to the A. Now, the C, man, do I have to explain it? It's a slower A train. It runs the R46s as well. And in my opinion, R46s are made for that express run. You know, they don't have the best acceleration in the world anymore. They not made for constant stop, go. That's why they was on the F line on Queens Boulevard. That's why they on the A line. The R line, that's a bit iffy, but whatever. The C is just no. Just no. Moving on to the Delta, yeah, we ain't even gonna mention that bullet right there. The Delta, I only know one issue of it, and it's the name. You know, it's the one that comes after the C, but before the E. I have a emoji in my Discord server just for this train. I don't really. What's the issue with it? You know, they run 68s. Going across the Manhattan Bridge is nice, to be honest. And I forgot to mention on the A, the R46s, I love the armrests on them. I don't know if it's the 68s or the 46s that got the armrest, but I love the armrest, whichever one with them window seats, you know. But the Deltas, R68s, they ain't bad, you know. Going across the Manhattan Bridge, when you sitting in one of them window seats and you looking out the window, looking at WTC and all that, Manhattan just looks so good going across the bridge. And when you in the window seat, it just gets comfortable, you know. That's it. It goes through DeKalb Junction and out. That's a bad side. That's the bad side of the Delta right there. You know, it gets held up at Broadway Junction for crossing N trains, and that's what limits capacity on the line, along with interlining with the A train, of course. But the Delta, it runs smoothly. Pause. And I don't really see many issues with it, you know. The capacity and frequencies need to be increased, but we're going to talk about that in the Montauk Connection video, which is going to be coming up on the Interlining Chronicles series. So we'll be talking about that. I love how I just spelled bad out in the C tier right there. That's funny. Now, E. Everybody's talking about the E is godly. Oh, it runs 50 miles an hour down Queens Boulevard. Yes, it is a fast line, but it is also the Homeless Express. I cannot put the Homeless Express in godly. I don't even know if I could put it in A tier. It might go in B tier, to be honest. The E, I've only taken it a handful of times, if I'm going to be completely honest. I've taken it down to World Trade Center before. I've taken it all the way down to Jamaica Center before. I recently took it to get 111th Street. I took it from what was that, 53rd Street, I think it is, 53rd Street to what was that, Parsons? No, Suffin to connect with the J. It's not a bad line. It runs quickly down Queens Boulevard, you know. I don't got too many issues with it, but it is the Homeless Express. I have seen videos of what goes on with all of the homeless people on the E line. Matter of fact, at the 75th Avenue station, I have a story that I never shared with anybody in a video or whatever. 75th Avenue, yo. Went up to the mezzanine, and there's 3 homeless people just laying down right there in the mezzanine as soon as you walk up the steps. Nah, I can't deal with that. But then again, I can't lie, it is bad on the 6 as well. If you take the 6, you will know what I'm talking about. All through from like Hunts Point all the way into Manhattan, maybe 103rd Street is like the cutoff line. Homeless, crackheads, all that. 116th Street, forget about it. 110th Street, forget about it. 125th, oh, that's heaven right there for the homeless people. It's wild, bro. It's wild. But F line, another Queens Boulevard line. To be honest, I've taken the F 3, 4, 5, maybe 20 times. Could have been 21, might have been 22, might have been 30 to be honest. Could have been 31. I've taken the F a handful of times. I'm trying to say. Took it to Bay Parkway to get that least use station. Now it might as well just go into the D tier right now because it has a least use station that's bordered by a cemetery. But nah, I ain't gonna do it wrong like that. A lot of people say that the F has horrible frequencies, and I have noticed this, to be honest. When I took the E just last week, the F headway said like 18 minutes or something like that, and that's unacceptable. But when I was taking it before, when I took it to Bay Parkway, headways was 3 minutes. I got that Bay Parkway video done mad quick. F trains was coming frequently, so I don't really experience the bad headways on the F, but I will say, once you get to like Culver North, like Smith 9th Streets and stuff, that's when you interline with the G, that's where the issue starts, I'm not saying that the G is the issue. I'm saying that the F is the issue itself. You know what we need? You see where the pointer is at? We need this F Express service. But we'll begin to that right after the F. So let's throw that in maybe let's throw that in the B tier, matter of fact. Yeah. F Express. It's going right into the D tier. It doesn't run frequent. What's going on with the F Express? Come on, bro. It runs 4 trains per day, 2 in each direction during peak hours. Why? Come on, reactivate Bergen lower level, run it express, have the G run local service. It's possible, especially if the G is going to be getting more units when the R211s come through. I already detailed this in my R211 plans video. Go check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. But the G can run all local service. 8-car trains, Culver and Crosstown CBTC can allow that. F Express service can run all day. You are eliminating interlining with the G train. You can run the F at 15 trains per hour through Culver Express. You can have frequent service, and people who live in Park Place and Prospect Park or whatever that is over there, yeah, they might complain, but too bad, bro. You got 7th Avenue where you got a cross-platform transfer to the F. You got Bergen Street where if you reopen the lower level, you got that transfer to the F right there. And if that ain't enough for you, you got the A train. Boom, that's an express right into Manhattan at Hoyt Street. What is your issue? Why are you opposing this so badly? You might even have frequent service yourself if you live at 7th Avenue, or if you take the train to 7th Avenue and then you hop on the express train. I don't understand why people gotta oppose things so much. Oh, we're losing 1-seat rides. Shut up, you got a cross-platform transfer. Like, come on. G line, I don't know if too many issues with the G, to be honest. It's useless? I wouldn't say so. I've seen a whole bunch of people taking the G line through Brooklyn, through Queens. Man, I went to the 21st Street least used station, right? Got on the G train at Court Square. It was packed. Even past 21st Street, when you catch the G trains coming from Church Avenue, pulling into 21st Street, going uptown, packed. The G gets its use. The G, I don't know, I haven't experienced many issues with it. To be honest, B tier might even go into the A tier. To be honest, matter of fact, I'm putting in A tier. I don't see an issue with it. It runs R160s now too. What is the issue with the G? Nothing. Now, if we had the IBX here, the Interborough Express, I might throw the Interborough Express like right here because it might be a little less useful than the G. To be completely honest, yeah, it's going through Bay Ridge, it's going crosstown through southern Brooklyn and all that, but it's serving eastern Queens, and I feel like more of the population and more workers are going to western Queens, Long Island City and all of that. So yeah, Interborough Express might serve a little less people, but I still think it'll be useful. Whatever, we're not talking about Interborough right now. J train, I just got 111th Street on the J. Not a bad line, to be honest. Runs fast through Queens and Brooklyn. I thought the J would be slow, just seeing the headways. It runs fast. It was smashing, yo. Fast. I think it hit like 40 maybe on Jamaica L. Stop playing. We gonna throw that up into C tier. Now, Yeah, there's one issue. Here's why it's going in C tier. You got Cypress Hills, between Cypress Hills and what is that, Crescent Street? You got that S curve. That S curve limits capacity on the J line so much that it runs like 6 trains per. It's worse. Well, actually, the C is worse. It runs 5 trains per hour. But the J runs 6 trains per hour. For a line that's that crowded, that doesn't really interline with anything else but the M, it should not be running 6 trains per hour. Come on, MTA, we need to do something to increase service on the J line. It runs way too infrequently for the areas it goes through, you know. But yeah, we got the J in the C tier right now, only because it runs infrequently and it got that S curve right there. If it didn't have that, it'd probably be higher, to be honest. Now, the M train. I forgot to do this when we was on the 6th Avenue one. M train, it runs 8-car trains. That's the main issue of it. Doesn't run Forest Hills all the time. Which kind of reminds me of the V train. Did the V train run to Forest Hills at all times? I'm not really sure. I may have taken the V train once. I'm not really sure. But the M, it doesn't run there full times. It doesn't even run to Delancey Street full times. Or is it Delancey Street? No, it doesn't even run to Delancey Street full times. It runs as a shuttle between Myrtle and Metropolitan. The M is kind of, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with the M right now. You know, it runs R160s. Yeah, that's cool. I would have preferred the R40s on it, but whatever. Yeah, unfortunately, those are retired. We got to talk about Myrtle Junction. Myrtle Junction is a main issue for the M train, you know. It limits capacity, I think, to 13 trains per hour, you know. And for how infrequent the R train runs, that just isn't enough for Queens Boulevard local, you know. So it might just have to go into D tier, you know. When I was at the Seneca Avenue station, M trains was coming every 12 minutes, and that is completely unacceptable, especially for how much use those stations along the Myrtle Avenue line gets. It's unacceptable. The L train, throw that right up into A tier. What's the issue with the L? ATO, CBTC, R143s with that beautiful propulsion. You got the R160s, a couple of units on them. You had the Supreme wrap on it, which, yeah, I don't really know about the Supreme wrap. To be honest, I liked it. I just didn't like how they made the front of the train red. I didn't like how the red didn't. I just like the contrast between black and red is what I'm trying to say. I don't like how the whole thing was red. But the L train is cool. That's the next least used station, Atlantic Avenue on the L. So, hey, we might have some V-roll, whatever people call it, of the L train soon. That's gonna be good. I took it from Junius Livonia Avenue before. Took it from 1st Avenue to 3rd Avenue before. It was surprisingly useful, mainly because I'm lazy enough to not want to walk those 2 blocks. Then again, they are Manhattan blocks, so you can't really blame me. Yeah. It's the L. It's not taking any L's. The N, Nancy. Some of the operators call it, at least. It goes across the Manhattan Bridge. You can't fault it for that. It goes across the Manhattan Bridge. It has R46s. What's the issue with the N? Well, it interlines with the D. It interlines with the Q, and it has the W on the Astoria line. But we'll get into that in a minute. The N, I don't know. What's the issue? DeKalb, Canal Street, you know, skipping 49th Street but not skipping it at the same time, 57th Street Junction. There's a lot of issues on the N line. But one thing I think it does well is service down 4th Avenue pretty quick. I've taken the N down 4th Avenue from 36th Street to, what was that, Atlantic? It's pretty quick. I haven't taken it enough to give a full judgment on it. You know, I've taken the Q more often. But I'm going to throw it into C tier, you know. My plans for it, and plans that I've shared with TMC in my Discord server, send the end up to 96th Street, you know. Have it still run along C Beach or whatever, but send it up to 96th Street with the Q. Then you can put the R on the story and do all that fun stuff. Q line runs 2nd Avenue. Love that. You know, it runs along the line that took maybe a century to build. So automatically it gets put into the B tier for that. You know, it's just it gave us the line, basically. You know, we don't got the T right now, and we don't need the T, to be honest. My plans, of course, would be to have Regional Rail take that over, but whatever. It's the Q, the queen of the system, as people say. Them headways, though. I've seen 19-minute headways on the Q line. Unacceptable. What's causing the issues on the Q line? I'm assuming it's the Street Junction, but like, come on, we need more service on the Q, especially if it's going to be like one of the only lines that really runs Broadway Express, because you can't really rely on the N for Broadway Express. You know, half of the time it's running Broadway local. The Q, something needs to be upped with that. I don't know if it needs more trains or something like that. I don't know what they doing at Coney Island. They not putting enough 46s on the line. It doesn't run frequent. Come on, this didn't used to happen with the R160s to my knowledge. So, come on, we gotta fix that. The R train. Now, before the fleet swap, Jamaica I'm talking about, it used to run 46s, and those were just the completely wrong trains for the line. Yeah, I know how people love the nostalgia of seeing the R46R and the R46G and blah blah blah. Whatever. It shouldn't have been running R46s. Yeah, that was a cool thing to see, but for a constantly stopping line, it just didn't fit, you know? So now that we have the R160s on the R, it's running a little bit better. Frequencies still aren't there. I think it runs 10 trains per hour. That's unacceptable. That's even worse than, it's not worse than the C and the J, but it's worse than the Q, which is supposed to run 15, 13 trains per hour or whatever. But the R, you know, I've talked about extending it to Astoria. You know, running it along Astoria, possibly building an extension to LaGuardia Airport, you know, the interlining plans. But currently the R just, it just ain't it. Just put it like that, you know. We're gonna throw that in the C tier. Now let's skip right to the W. Move. There we go. The W line, it is completely redundant. I'm not gonna say it's useless. Now, a lot of people think that the W is useless. It's not completely useless. The whole point of the W train is to fill in those gaps between N and R train service. N trains can't cover Astoria all on its own. R trains can't cover Broadway local all on its own. So you need the W train there to fill in those gaps. Now, I think we failed one thing on the Astoria line, and that's the implementation of peak direction express service, which I hope becomes a thing if we ever extend the line to LaGuardia. But whatever. I'm going to throw the W in the C tier with the N, R, and W, and the reason for that is it is a redundant service. It's not useless, but it runs along, you know, the yellow lines, the yellow trunk line, the Broadway trunk, whatever you want to call it, for its whole entire length. It's not unique or anything of the sort. Yeah, it was cool to see it come back. It was a big thing in 2017 or 2018 when they announced that the W was coming back, but so what? It's back. It's a gap filler. That's it. Pause. Whatever, we gonna move on to the shuttles. 42nd Street Shuttle. Godly. First subway. It was part of the first subway in 1904, October 27th. Mark that on your calendars if we ever go back in time. It's the shuttle. Runs 6 cars, 62 A's. What else you want from it? Yeah, it was put on fire in like the 60s or the 50s. It had ATO, first line in the subway system to have ATO. Whatever. You know, you got Franklin Avenue. Just for Dean Street. Boom. Just for Dean Street. Rockaway Shuttle. Boom. Headways are horrible on that as well. What, 10, 20 minute headways? No. Horrible. Get rid of it. But don't, because riders need that. You know, the whole plans is the Rockaway Beach branch. You know, extend the J train or build the J, not the J, the H. From 63rd to Rego Park or whatever that is. Or the upper level of Roosevelt that isn't used. And extend it down the Rockaway Beach branch to the Rockaways, of course. Have it branch into running to Far Rockaway and Rockaway Beach, respectively. Have the A just run straight to Lefferts, you know, and create a little transfer point at Rockaway Boulevard or whatever that is. 88th Street, I don't know. Funnily enough, I'll be going to Lefferts soon. Get a couple videos, you know. Got plans for a certain line, you know. But yeah. And last but not least, it's an unnecessary line. Let me make a case for this real quick. It takes away from J service. Done. The Z is not useful at all. It saves what, 1 minute? Skip stop service just shouldn't be a thing in a subway system, and I will stand by that from the rest of my life. It shouldn't be a thing in the subway system. You either have express service or you either have local service. You cannot have a mix. The issue with the Z is, let's say you're living at a station at like 111th, right? During off-peak hours, you'll be getting better service than during peak hours. And the reason for that is the Z is taking service away from the J. The Z is taking trains that the J would originally have, that the J would originally run, and run it along a line that would just skip those stations entirely. It's horrible. You're sitting at 111th Street, right? During off-peak hours, the J might come every 10 minutes, right? During peak hours, though, the J might come every 15. Why is that? Because the Z is taking those original J trains and running them along a useless skip stop service. Now you're waiting longer for the train just for it to skip a couple extra stops. It isn't going to make up time. Just believe me, it isn't going to make back any time. The Z is completely useless. My plans for it would be to turn it into express local service on the Nassau Street line. Have the J run to like Broadway Junction Express during peak hours and stuff like that. And have the Z run local service. Now you're actually making a case for the Z being relevant. Right now, what's the point of it? Just to make service worse? MTA, get rid of it, please. You already got rid of the 9. Come on. Get rid of the last useless skip stop. I'd go as far as saying the 9 was more useful. You could get from 242nd Street down to South Ferry quicker than the 1. With the Z, you get there the same time as the J. Just know. But yeah, that's my list. You got the 137 shuttle and the godly tier. You got the 47 GNL and the A tier. Yeah, I know a whole bunch of y'all is going to be commenting about why I put the G in the A tier. Yeah. What you got against the G? So what if it doesn't run into Manhattan? It doesn't need to. We need circumferential lines and stuff like that. Lines that don't run into the CBD. Lines that don't run into the inner city. We need those in the system. Not every rider is going into Manhattan. Not everybody's doing that. Some people might want to get from the Bronx to Queens, and we don't have that line built yet. I plan to make a video on that in the future, but we don't have that built yet. Some people want to get from Brooklyn to Queens, and that's where the G comes in handy. Well, if you're living on the western side of those boroughs, though. So, what's the issue with it? You know, you got the B tier, 2566 Express, the EF and Q. Q's nice. 6 Express, I might move that into the A tier, but I don't know. It's still on my bad side for making me late a couple times. The E Homeless Express, I don't gotta explain more about that. The 2, just know. The 5 redundant service, but still good. You got the C tier, BADJNRW. I don't see nothing to change here, you know. Maybe I can make a case for moving the B up because it runs, you know, Brighton exceptionally quickly. But what's going on with that Bedford Park service, you know? Let's see. D tier, C, F Express, M, Franklin, and Rockaways. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have those same lines in that same tier. You could make a case for the M getting moved up, but then again, what is it? It's a V that runs via Nassau now, and it doesn't even run full day, you know, service to Manhattan. So yeah, and then the Z train. It's the Z. If the Z is your favorite train,